watching out. For you, this is NewsWatch 12 at 4.
On our top story this evening, we're continuing to track the path of Hurricane Milton, which is set to make landfall this evening in Florida and cause some potentially catastrophic effects. Thanks for joining us for NewsWatch 12 at 4. I'm Haley Gravitt.
And I'm Tim Quidadamo. One Southern Oregon native who now lives in St. Petersburg says he's waiting out the storm. Elliot Ramsdell lives in a non-evacuation zone shown with the black marker on your screen right now. Zones A through C and all mobile homes are under mandatory evacuation. Ramsdell is entering his 14th year living in Florida and has evacuated twice for Hurricane Irma in 2017 and Hurricane Ian in 2022. This time, he's staying put. Ramsdell says people in the community have reached out to ask why he isn't evacuating. He says doing that would cause more harm than good.
It creates an issue for other people that actually have to evacuate. I'm taking more gas, I'm taking more resources, I'm taking plane seats or hotel rooms. So I left that for people that are in the zone.
And Ramsdell is taking other safeguards from home, like boarding up his windows, as we see here. He lives at a 40-foot elevation and said that he isn't worried about flooding. Still, he has some other safety concerns as the hurricane does approach. We'll tell you what they are coming up on NewsWatch 12 at 5.
We're certainly wishing Elliot and everybody in Florida the best. We welcome in Stormwatch 12 Chief Meteorologist Matt Hoffman. 40 feet in elevation is good to hear. We've been hearing about storm surge with this storm for weeks now. And Matt, we're going to get a little bit more into that, but how is Milton looking right now?
Well, we are just a couple of hours away, it looks like, from landfall. You can see that eye wall is getting pretty close to the Tampa area. And the storm surge is starting to move ashore for parts of Florida. Seeing that right now in the Fort Myers area, some flooding. And what is the storm surge? Well, the winds from the hurricane, it pushes up the water and kind of bulges as it moves across the Gulf of Mexico. And eventually, as the hurricane comes ashore, all that water has no place to go but up. So that's what we're going to start to see, and we're already starting to see that as we head into this evening. And you can see by 6 feet, and then eventually we could see some areas getting over 12 feet, maybe as much as 15 feet of storm surge. So that would be just extreme flooding. And as you can see, that's pretty much covering, a two-story house. So we are still tracking this as now a Category 3 Hurricane Milton, packing sustained winds of 120 miles per hour. Not only are we concerned about storm surge as well as strong winds, but also there's been a fair amount of tornadoes that have been devastating parts of Florida today. A lot of tornadoes being reported, and the impacts from this still going to carry into tonight. Just a very catastrophic hurricane impacting Florida tonight. It does move off to the east in the days ahead. It'll become extratropical and weaken. We'll take a look at our forecast coming up in just a few moments.
Matt, thank you. We'll also continue following Hurricane Milton closely. For those of you with friends and family in the area, coming up later in the newscast, we'll look closer at the evacuation efforts that are being done right now, as well as the Biden administration's response to the storm. On to our crime watch. We are still talking about the trial of Negazi Zuberi in Medford today, day 2 of that trial.
Day 2, and the 30-year-old Klamath Falls man faces federal criminal charges that include 2 counts of kidnapping, 1 count of transportation for criminal sexual activity, 4 counts of felon possessing weapons or ammunition, and attempted escape. He's accused of kidnapping a Seattle woman and holding her captive in a homemade cinder block cell at his Klamath Falls home. And today she testified that she was so scared and trapped in captivity that she bit off her fingernails to escape.
NewsWatch 12 was once again in federal court today when the first testimony in Zuberi's trial started, with a woman identified as one of his kidnapping victims.
NewsWatch 12's Jerry Howard was in court tracking this case for us, starting with its first witness. Jerry, what did jurors hear from in court today?
Yeah, Haley, Tim, 30-year-old Negazi Zuberi, along with his judge and jury, watched and heard testimony from a woman the U.S. Attorney's Office says is one of his kidnapping victims. For now, we are shielding her identity as a sex crime victim as well. sex is a starting point for the case prosecution, which says Zuberi kidnapped the woman from Seattle and drove her to Klamath Falls to hold her captive in a cinder block cell he'd built in his garage. It says he wanted to have power, control, and sexual dominance over women. His trial's first witness acknowledged she was a prostitute July 14th, 2023, a night and next morning she says started in Seattle and ended in Klamath Falls. She told the court that after she provided sex for Zuberi in a Seattle alley, he falsely presented himself as a police officer throughout an overnight drive to Klamath Falls. She said as he used a taser to put her in handcuffs and leg irons in the back compartment of his car, he said he was a police officer in a sting operation that was watching her as a target and said, quote, "We've been watching you all along," end quote. The woman said Zuberi said he'd let her go once he took her to a secure location and that he had a device that shuts off cell phones after asking if she'd noticed her phone wasn't working. She said she was, quote, "scared. I can't believe this is happening. I just wanted to go home. I just wanted to get out of the car," end quote. The woman testified she did not think he was a police officer, though, quote, "he seemed strangely friendly, like he was trying to make me feel comfortable. Yet, as the drive lingered, I started kind of freaking out, like, where are you taking me?" End quote. She says Zuberi denied her repeated request to be let out of the car, as nobody but them knew where she was. In case investigators say this witness is the kidnapping victim who escaped Zuberi's Klamath Falls home by using her bare hands to beat an opening through a mesh of a steel frame door of that cinder block cell. And that was during her first day of captivity there. She said today she took Zuberi's handgun from his vehicle during her escape. That led to a passerby helping her contact Klamath County Sheriff's Office. Police in Reno, Nevada later arrested Zuberi there after a police standoff in a parking lot. Now, the woman who testified today as the first witness in Zuberi's federal trial said she still has medical and recovery issues from the traumatic experience. In NewsWatch 12 at 5 and 6, we'll share more of her account about how she got to Zuberi's Klamath Falls home and how she got away. Tim, Haley?
Jerry, thank you. In Jackson County, the city of Ashland is looking for your residents' input on the city's community wildfire protection plan. The city says it's rewriting the plan and wants input from as many residents as possible. Since last year, city officials have been collecting data and conducting interviews about the plan. You can find a link to the survey on our website, kdrv.com.
Now, your first forecast with Chief Meteorologist Matt Hoffman.
We've seen clouds on the increase as we've gone throughout the day today. Temperatures also a bit cooler. We're in the 70s in Medford, Wairika, as well as Klamath Falls, 67 along the coast in Brookings. Now, air quality is good across the region, but fires to our north have been very active this week, and the flow of wind could allow some of that smoke to move in, especially to the east side tonight into tomorrow. There is an air quality alert for Klamath and Lake County, so we'll be watching that closely. You can see with the near surface smoke forecast, some of that smoke pushing into the basin and the rest of the east side into tomorrow morning, but we should see a lot of that clear out as we go throughout the day tomorrow. Tonight, look for temperatures to fall to about 49 in Medford. We'll drop to 40 in Klamath Falls. Sky still rather mostly cloudy across the region. And then tomorrow, look for clouds to actually go on the decrease. Temperatures will bump up a bit as well, up to 81 in Medford, 76 in Klamath Falls. We'll get up to 67 in Brookings. We'll take a look at your weekend forecasts coming up.
Matt, thank you. In Josephine County, NewsWatch 12 was at Wildlife Images in Grants Pass today.
Our Stormwatch 12 weather team is working up a story to showcase in our upcoming winter forecast. And while they were there, Wildlife Images shared with us the story of a new resident, Gilbert. Cuteness overload, just so you know. Gilbert came from a government facility in Montana. His mother was shot and killed, and he was going to be euthanized until Wildlife Images stepped up to take care of him.
We still have Yak, our female brown bear from Alaska, but we have not had a bear here into our facility that has been taken into our facility in over 20 years. So it's a big treat to have Gilbert, especially a baby that is going to be raised here at the facility.
Where you see Gilbert right now is a quarantine area while the team works to get rid of the worms he has and finish his new enclosure. They expect him to be out of quarantine and in the enclosure which will be completed by November. DeShazo says that Gilbert never learned the skills to survive in the wild, so he will be a permanent resident at Wildlife Images. And we're already seeing a ton of donations for Newswatch 12's 34th annual Coats for Kids campaign this year. It's been impressive.
It's only been about 2 weeks too, and we've already been blown away by how generous all of you are at home. We've been working with our partners and all of you to provide new and gently used coats to kids in Jackson, Josephine, and Klamath counties. If you would like to donate, make sure you're on the lookout for one of our Red Barrel donation locations.
You can also donate to our Coats for Kids drive online or by check. You can find details on how to do that at kdrv.com. And while you're on our website, you can also find a list of where our red donation barrels are located throughout Jackson, Josephine, and Klamath counties. All of us here at Newswatch 12 can't tell you how grateful we are for your continued support over more than 3 decades.